David Kindopp.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
It's nice to have you. Today we're talking about Line Trepidation.
Line Trepidation.
Something that probably irritates all of us now and then.
I don't know.
Depending.
Some people maybe never. You know?
Maybe never. This inspired you to write an article that was really thought-provoking. Thought-provoking. Where did you come up with this idea of this article, David?
Well, I came up with this idea because here in Northern California, where I'm staying right now, and recently we had all these wildfires all over the state of California, and one of my favorite retreats burned to the ground, just disappeared in the fire in Lake County, California, and it was a place called Harbin Hot Springs, and it's this beautiful place. It's on maybe 50 or 60 acres, and it's been there for many, many, many years. It's probably been there really since about the 30s or 40s, and I think it burned down in the 50s and they rebuilt it, and I think they're going to rebuild it again. It's this very peaceful, beautiful place in the hills and the pine trees and hot pools, cold pools, but it's basically clothing optional. And not optional really. I mean, nobody really wears any clothing unless they're sunburned, But I've spent time there, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful place. And you go and you relax and you connect with your humanity, and what I've always said. Well, so anyway, this place burned down, and that was of course on the news. And I saw a video of somebody going over the property and the charred remains of this really wonderful place with great energy. And so it just got me thinking about that and my experiences in places that were clothing optional, during the course of my lifetime, and how interesting it is, and also how difficult that concept is for some people. How easy it is for me and other people that are there, obviously, but how difficult that concept is for some people. So I thought, well, yeah, it could be fun to write about it. Plus I thought I might get some reaction, from Ma's Messenger where I published it, which I didn't get any reaction. I thought that was funny.
Maybe they were afraid to react.
Well, those people aren't very afraid to react, in my experience.
Well, culturally, we have been taught, most of us. Of course, there are tribes that have been natural for a long time in many parts of the world, but we have been taught to be very, very ashamed of our bodies.
Oh, yeah.
And to keep them covered up at all costs.
Right.
As if our soul were hanging out naked.
Right.
And I think a lot of people feel just that way.
Sure.
They feel that intimidated, as if their soul were bared naked with all of its imperfections, and totally taken down and apart by the fear of being seen naked.
Sure. Oh yeah, it's fascinating, and what has been said and what I reiterate in my piece is that when you're in an environment like that where nobody has any clothing on, and there are a lot of people. Let's say you're at Harbin Hot Springs or any other naturist or nudist resort, there could be 100 people there. There could be 500 people there, depending on the size and where it is. Florida, there's some mega resorts, and when you're there, like people say, you don't know who is the lawyer and who is the secretary. You don't know who's the CEO, and who's the janitor. And nobody's got their Mercedes, sitting next to them, or their American Express Platinum card. And so it's a great equalizer in terms of your humanity. And because you're really on your own in terms of your personality and your social presence. And I think maybe some people who don't like it are afraid of that equalization process where you're really your social skills are pretty much all you have.
I think that equalization process is more than an equalization process. Here's why. Unfortunately, all of our ads that present women as being acceptable by their physical beauty,
right,
are challenged when the woman becomes naked.
Yeah, I agree.
And so many women are caught into that more than guys because, TV ads sell on if a woman isn't
Right.
sexy, if she isn't young, if she
Right.
isn't beautiful, if she isn't perfect, somehow she's not a woman.
Right. Right.
Then you go absolutely naked and dive in the pool and come up with your makeup all washed off and you're wet as a brown puppy. And that is so terrifying to a lot of women that never had self-confidence to start with.
Right. 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 Well, I think what I've noticed is that most people, and men and women, I mean, because men have body acceptance issues, I think, just like women do. But what I've noticed in places like that is that the people that are comfortable there, and I've never really seen anybody uncomfortable there, they are comfortable there partly because of being there. I mean, so it's like which comes first kind of a thing, it's a conundrum. But when you're there and you begin to relax and you begin to see all these other people of all these different shapes and sizes and colors and some are short and some are tall and some are large and some are small, you begin to realize, wow, there's this whole mix of humanity here, and I'm fine, and you get that and you see that, you're in the pool, you talk to people and you have a conversation and there's I don't think I've ever had a quote unquote sexual conversation at a clothing optional place. It's always about the weather or the facilities or where you went on vacation last year or what's your favorite spot in the world. I mean, it's never about look at you. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe I missed that.
Well, I think a lot of the fear that ooh, look at you, they probably didn't come a second time anyway because they were so intimidated and scared.
Yeah.
If they could do it. And a lot of people, of course, can work on that fear, to overcome that fear, and to challenge themselves in accepting who they are, where they are, and how they are, regardless.
Right, right.
If they can do that, it's a healing thing.
Oh, well,
It's a very healing thing.
Sure.
A lot of people can't do that. A lot of people can't even go look in the mirror and face the idioms that they perform every day in the way of their other dysfunctions, let alone naked.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Whoa, yeah. Help, right? Yeah. But it is. It's like I said, it's really. I think it's really interesting, and in fact, I had this conversation. I think last night with a woman, and we were just casually talking about that, over a glass of wine, and it was about how you feel about your body. And it's like, well, I'm at that age now where I don't look like I did when I was 25, and I kind of worry about that body acceptance thing. And of course, my response was, well, nobody that's my age looks like they did when they were 25, and that's not the point. The point isn't to look like you were before. You can't do that. You can't go into rewind, as Wayne Dyer says. The point is to feel good about who you are, and I believe that the more you are in situations where you don't have clothing on, the more aware of your body you are, and then I think you're more inclined to say, well, gee, maybe I'll skip this jelly donut and have a carrot just because I'll feel better and I'll look better. And when you're healthier, in body, of course you're healthier in your mind. I think Deepak Chopra said that in every spiritual endeavor, your greatest ally is your body. Your body houses your soul, your temple. It's the temple, for your soul. I mean, so anything that can happen to make you more aware of that and to treat your body more kindly and to make it more healthy and to accept it more as that vessel, I think is a good thing.
It's interesting because our body is our greatest ally, tells us things all the time that we don't want to hear.
Well,
don't want to face that.
Right,
No.
right. Yeah, that's true. But I also, I know, I've seen many people in clothing optional places, men and women, that, are not fit, that are overweight or whatever, but they're fine, I don't know what, nobody knows what somebody's personal situation is at any given time. But it's nice to see people that have accepted where they are now, and they're comfortable with it, and they're not going to, they're not ashamed, and I think that whole religious ethic is, this that creates this ashamedness about our bodies is just really wrong, and I don't think there's anything to be ashamed of.
Tell us how pertinent and how many, if you can imagine, or some proportion, just how popular clothing optional places are.
What I what I read recently and researched was that there are, I think, in the United States, I think there are 270 clothing optional resorts. 270, and in Florida there are a few that are really, really nice. I mean, very, very nice. $300 a night, villas and pools and tennis courts. I mean, very, very nice. And I think the average person that shows up there is most of the people are over 35. They're older folks, and they have means, and they want to be in a place where they can relax like that and have nice accommodations. Back in the old days, you went to a quote nudist resort and it was some campground on a river somewhere, and that was all there was, But now, I mean, it's pretty darn nice accommodations. And I think what's interesting is, I write for the Moz Messenger, I write, so I try when I can to bring a little bit of Mexico into what I write. And I think it's interesting that there are a couple of new nudist resorts in Mexico, which is, unusual. I mean, Mexico has traditionally been a very Catholic, conservative country, at least on the surface, right?
Right.
And so there are a couple of really mega nice clothing optional resorts in Mexico on the Caribbean side, and I think maybe one in Baja. I'm not really sure. So I mean, it's definitely a worldwide. It's been accepted in a lot of countries for a long time.
Do our coastal states cater to it more than our interstates?
I think climate-wise is what is the key,
Yes.
Right, but I mean, I think there are a lot of places in the Midwest and all throughout the country. 270 in the United States, and they're certainly not all in Florida.
No.
No, I mean, I haven't gone through the list. It's not like I'm going to take a road trip and get it to every one of them, But
only because you don't have time.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's an idea,
Or the many.
But and I think the statistics, the latest statistics, are that 25% of all adults in the United States have gone skinny dipping. That's a lot of people. What is that? I forget. That's probably 80 million people. So it's not like, it's not like nobody is aware of it or nobody thinks about it. I think it's just the line between having gone to a nudist resort and not, is just the social taboo that an individual is just saddled with.
I think they're less aware of how popular it is than they are that 1/4 of them did go skinny dipping.
You're right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Because they think that 1/4, which is them, is probably a big secret.
Right. Yeah. Big secret. Right. And it's funny because people say, well, what if I see somebody I know there? And it's like, well, hello. So what? I mean,
hey, nice to see
right,
you.
Yeah, literally, right? Well, yeah, but it's like, what if I see somebody I know there? Well, then there they are. There you are, I mean, you can't, what are you going to live your whole life wondering about what your neighbor's going to think, Yeah.
A lot of people do just that.
I guess.
You would be shocked how many people put another person's opinion over their own well-being.
Right.
That's what entraps us. That's the big one.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's very true. Right.
The big one. We're really terribly, terribly crippled.
Mm-hmm.
Crippled by our fear of what somebody else will think of us.
Well, yeah, that is true. And I know that for a fact, and I've been through that in phases, and I'm sure everybody has, to one degree or another. Yeah.
And what does nudity do to that?
Well, I think it really helps you cross that bridge where other people's opinions aren't going to matter that much. It's like Wayne Dyer has this great statement one time. He was speaking to like 3,000 people, and he said, when I finish talking to you folks today and I leave here, I'm going to have 3,000 reputations. And so once you get it, that you can't control that, and so you know, and I think taking your clothes off around a bunch of other people in a social setting that's not, you know, sexually charged. I mean, there's no expectations. That changes everything in terms of you really get it. That, wow, you know, I mean, talking about having an opinion of me, you know, everybody here may or may not have an opinion of me, but so what?
But it is a great step in many, many cases towards self-acceptance
Oh, yeah.
and
yeah.
healing.
Right.
Because whatever you are, you are.
Right.
And if they don't like what they see, oh well.
Right.
And you're still healthy.
Oh, sure.
And you're
Sure.
still fine.
Right.
And you might even be better.
Yeah, yeah.
If you can deal with it. If you can't deal with it, if you're so encumbered by your fears that you can't deal with it, of course, those people don't come back.
Right.
Or at least if they do, it's very painful and hard.
Right, right.
To make that step through.
And I think if you're that afraid, you just don't show up to begin with. I mean, I've spoken with people, and it's like, oh, there's no way I could ever do that. You know?
Oh yeah.
But it's interesting. I mean, I've shared this experience with you know, a few ladies I've met over time, and just, you know, it comes up in conversation, let's say, and there's this invitation. You know, would you like to go check out, you know, XYZ spot, and with a little consideration, often it's like, well, okay, you know, I'll try that. I'll see what it, you know, and without exception, every time these people do not want to leave. It's like, what? I have to put my clothes on and go home? I mean, really, it's that.
Pick up your toys and clean your room and you leave. Right?
It's that freeing and that pleasant, and it's within minutes, just within a few minutes. It's like, wow, I like this, you know, and that's true. It speaks to the philosophy that people say. It is very a freeing experience, you know, and it absolutely is. I mean. You know, there's an old saying that if God wanted us to be naked, we'd be born that way. You know, and obviously not obviously in tropical climates, that's not, you know, clothing is not as you know, is not used as a you know, as a social construct. It's more used as a practical construct. You know, I mean, obviously, in the South Pacific, I mean, people ran around with no clothes on for a long time until the Christians decided to change that, right?
Well, even then, they almost had to Christianize them, just change them.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, because they didn't understand.
Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting to think about a culture that doesn't understand nudity as being wrong.
Right.
And that's very cool.
Yeah.
You know, that's like, wouldn't that be nice if we had a culture that understood that murder was wrong? You know, wouldn't that be interesting, right?
Or that hurting somebody was wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, for the deliberate intent of just empowerment.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, and that's another thing. When you don't have any clothes on, you can't conceal a weapon.
Or anything.
Right, exactly, right.
So you think maybe just possibly that this has more to do with the naked truth than it does tan lines? Just maybe?
Yeah, right.
Because I don't see any tan lines in a nudist colony, or do I?
Well, in the springtime you might.
Okay.
No, but you know, you do sometimes, because I mean, often, I mean, we all live in places, and you know, maybe we have a backyard pool, or we're at the neighbors, or we're down at the whatever beach or lake or something. But yeah, I've seen tan lines in clothing optional resorts. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, not that many, you know. And I'm not advocating it by any stretch of the imagination that you need to, you know, lay in the sun and turn your skin into, you know, parched leather over time either. You know, that's not good. I mean, there's too much of a good thing, you know, it's not good. But I mean, it's all about moderation and being healthy. And I mean, there's, you know, and those of us who've experienced absolutely get it. You know, there's nothing like, you know, being in a place like that and having all your inhibitions kind of, not all of them, but most of them kind of faded away, and relaxing and getting in the pool and getting in the sun. And those who haven't experienced it are still going, whoa, you know, I don't know.
Well, I really think that once a person can comfortably do that, it does change how they feel about themselves, because they are accepting themselves or they wouldn't be there.
Sure.
They are saying, this is the real me,
Right.
take it or leave it, young or old, ugly or beautiful, so what? This is life, this is me, I'm living under the sun, and I like it. And they're comfortable with that. A lot of people can't do that, a tremendous lot of people. And when we think about nudity, we usually think about our inhibitions, and you talk about, well, if we can do it with a non-sexual connotation. All the tribes that we have history of didn't associate nudity with sexuality.
Right.
We who decided to dress did that.
Right. Oh, sure.
Our culture decided to cover us up because that's what they were thinking.
Sure. Oh, sure. Yeah.
And it's really worked the opposite.
Uh-huh.
It's
Right.
worked the opposite. Now, sex is made upon the powder and the paint and the padding and
Right.
what shows
Sure.
and what doesn't show
Right.
and how you
Right.
can strut it, and et cetera,
Right.
et cetera.
Right.
We created that with our costumes. Our clothing are our costumes.
Right. Right. Oh, yeah.
They're our feathers for the dance.
Yeah, right.
And yet, they can be modest and sweet and not so, which is what we were taught the purpose was for. But let's get realistic. They were to cover the body because the naked body reminded the person that taught us that of sexuality.
Right. Right. Oh, yeah. And ironically, it for a lot, I think in many cases, scantily clad is more titillating than nude.
Right.
You know, and that's just crazy. And I'm not saying that there's never going to be any kind of sexual observation or inclination, you know, when you're with a whole group of people and you've got, you know, a lot of people, nobody has any clothes on. I mean, that's just human nature.
But isn't that human nature even when we're dressed?
Oh, absolutely. You're
That's
right.
the
Yeah,
point.
Right.
That's
Right.
the point.
Right. Yeah.
We
right.
do that. We
Yeah.
look and say, oh, he or she is cute, and
Right.
wow, what a nice bod.
Mhm.
Or not.
Right. 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 Yeah. Exactly. Right.
With or without clothes. Because that's human nature.
Right. Right.
You know, we tend to look each other over and admire each other and accept each other, or not.
Or not. Right.
With or without clothing.
Right. Right.
And we do that titillated more by possessions and clothing than we do without, or do we not? Which is true.
Well, I think we do with using our possessions and our clothing, you know, as accoutrements to who we are, you know. So we can use our Mercedes convertible, you know.
Yeah, that's a big plus, right?
Right. You know, or you know, or whatever we can use, you know,
Right.
you know, we can use that to attract and to.
Or a Kardashian butt job.
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Which I think is funny, but you know, I have a weird sense of
Right.
humor.
But you know, if you're a guy and I mean, you take the guy out of his Mercedes convertible and out of his expensive clothing and out of the upscale happy hour, you know, and put the same, and you know, let's see what he does in that scenario, and then put the same guy, you know, poolside without any clothes on, you know, with 150 other people. And how does he function there? Now, if he functions pretty much the same way in each place, then he's probably a pretty genuine person. But if he's totally different in those places, then you can really understand how your personality can be shifted, or you shift it based on the circumstances.
And that's really revealing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And it's good to know, because you get a clearer, more honest picture of how that person sees themselves. And how they see themselves is going to affect how they see you, because they see through the same pair of eyes no matter what they're looking at.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And the
yeah.
same mind,
Right, right,
with or without
right.
possessions, clothing, and etc.
Oh, yeah.
And that would be extremely revealing as to who that person might truly be.
Oh, sure, yeah. Yeah, it is interesting. But like I said, I mean, you meet people and you meet them on a whole different level, you know, without any of the costuming and posturing, typically. Now, I mean, some people, of course, are going to be posturing no matter what.
Because that's who they really
That's
are.
who they are, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely brings and it's peaceful. My experience has been, I went to New York many years ago, and we went to visit relatives, and we were on Long Island, and there's at Fire Island, which is now I guess a real famous gay beach now, but I don't know. In those days, there was you go to Fire Island, and then there was the textile section of the beach, and then the nude section. So we went out there. And I told my wife, I said, well, let's wander on down to the nude section. And she didn't want to do it. I don't think so. And I said, come on, no big deal. And so we're in the textile section, and people are jammed together. They've all got their radios on all their personal stations, and they're yelling and screaming and laughing. And it's like, oh, God. We walk half a mile down to the nude section. People are all spread out. There's not one radio on. People are relaxed. They're playing cards or playing dominoes. They're just relaxing. You can hear the ocean. A whole different mentality, and that's what I've experienced without exception, because people that are the naturists, let's say they're called naturists, right? Well, those are people that really do appreciate nature, and they appreciate the silence of the world and the planet and the sound of the water and those kinds of things. It's definitely a big difference. You don't go to a place like Harbin Hot Springs and lay out by the pool and lay out next to somebody who's got their iPod on full blast. Well, they won't let you do that there because it's not. You've got to be quiet and peaceful. But in general, that just doesn't happen. Yeah, it's great. I like that.
Interesting concept.
Yeah.
Very interesting concept. So how would you sum it up? How would you sum that up in telling people the assets and liabilities of the naked truth? And not having a messed up tan line.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think that the only thing I could offer is that I mean, everybody's going to do what they're going to do, no matter what. I mean, they're not going to, I'm not going to have a conversation with somebody and they're not going to say, oh, yeah, let's go down and get naked somewhere. Maybe. But I think it's, just to keep an open mind, I think is the main thing. And I think the main idea, I think, is to keep an open mind about the fact that you can put yourself in that kind of a situation and really leave your troubles behind, if you will. I mean, you can leave all of the stuff that you deal with on a day-to-day basis. That it stays in your pants pockets when you throw them on the seat of your car, and walk across the parking lot or whatever. I mean, I really believe that.
There are nude beaches in Nice and in many other places in Europe.
Oh, yeah.
And when we go to other continents and we go into tribal situations, especially in jungle areas, those people are not clothed like we're clothed.
Right,
They're
right.
clothed very little, if at all. They don't have the means to do it, and it's hot.
Right.
And they don't have all of the laundry facilities to wash everything
Yeah,
every
right,
day, so
right.
they jump in the pool, or
Sure.
I should say they jump in the pond and whatever.
Yeah, right.
And if we step out of our highly structured clothing ideas and look at someone else's, are we totally terrified, or do we just accept it? I'm bringing this up simply because most of us, no matter how we are cultured, have a sense of non-judgment when we step into their culture, because we accept that's the way they are.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is it the naked truth or just a tan line? Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Rebecca.